I want to talk a little bit about what sports and sporting competitions can teach you about psychology. So, this is a little thought experiment that I invite you to join me for. So, imagine that you and I are friends and that we're both soccer fans. I'm in actuality not a soccer fan, but let's just imagine that we are, right? And let's pick each of our teams. So let's say I pick Real Madrid and you pick Manchester United, right, for some tournament championship, right? So let's say that you and I are in the taxi going towards the stadium to watch the final. It's Real Madrid and it's Manchester United for the championship. I'm the Real Madrid fan, and you're the Manchester United fan. And as we sit there in the taxi, we feel this electric, giddy, kind of euphoric feeling of excitement. And it seems as if there's this thing called the football match or the soccer match that's somehow making us feel that way, right? It really seems that way. Now, the taxi driver doesn't care about soccer and he's having had a rough day, so he's kind of just tired and irritable. He's not feeling any of that, you know. But let's say that we get to the stadium, we both bathe in this excited, giddy, kind of semi euphoric feeling states, right? And let's say that in the first half, Real Madrid just rock. They're up 2-0 after the first half of the game. Me, as the Real Madrid fan, I'm ecstatic, right? I'm completely ecstatic. And you, as the Manchester United fan, you're in a deep depression, right? Now, here's the interesting thing: the feelings are real, right, in a sense. But if someone were to ask us, why are you so ecstatic? Or why are you so depressed? We would both likely point our finger outwards and say, because of the game. As if there's something out there that there's some event or situation out there called a football match that we are kind of just reacting to, in a sense. It seems that way. It looks so real, right? And whenever Real Madrid scores, there's an enormous feeling of euphoria in my body, and there's a tremendous sense of disappointment and depression in yours. And it seems as if the feeling state is just a reaction to something that happened out there. And that thinking had absolutely nothing to do with it. We just reacted to it. The body just. But think about it. And then let's say that in the second half, Real Madrid goes to sleep, Manchester United wakes up, and after a thrilling battle, in the end, Manchester United wins 3-2. Now you're ecstatic and euphoric, and I'm in this deep depressive funk. And again, if someone were to ask us, why do you feel that way? We'd both point outwards to that alleged event out there, which we are somehow reacting to. But here's the funny thing: it doesn't work that way at all. The feelings are 100% constructed by our own thinking, by our own meaning making. It's not like 5% the so-called soccer game and 95% thinking. It's 100% generated by thinking. The so-called event itself is completely neutral. You could say all that's really happening is that there's a ball being kicked by a foot over a white line and two what we call goalposts. That's all that's happening. The idea that if a particular foot attached to a torso that has a t-shirt on in particular colors, that if someone wearing that kicks the letter ball behind over a white line and two goalposts, that means ecstasy is 100% created by the mind. And the whole idea that if a foot, connected to a torso that has another set of colors attached to the t-shirt, if that foot kicks the letter ball over a different white line with two goalposts, that somehow means tragedy or despair or disappointment. This is also 100% a thought creation. Even the even the idea of a soccer game is a thought construct. The whole idea of Manchester United or Real Madrid itself is a thought construct. And so is the very identity as a Real Madrid fan or a Manchester United fan. This is all also completely created by thinking. The very same thinking process that divides experience into a seemingly multiplicity of separate objects occurring to a separate subject. Think of it. Let's say that this was a national soccer game, the World Cup final, and let's say that you are, I'm just going to make something up, but let's say that you are from Spain and I'm from Norway. Of course, Norway never qualifies for the World Cup, but let's say that Norway and Spain was in the final. I say, I'm a Norwegian. There is no such thing as Norway. There's no such thing as Spain. At some particular time, some people went around and they put some sticks, some lines in the sand, so to speak. Not that much sand in Norway, but you gotta get the analogy. Where they kind of said, okay, everything behind those rocks over there is Sweden, and over the ocean there is Denmark, and the people who live here are Norwegians, and we have these particular attributes, and there's pride and shame around, our team winning. There's nothing like this in nature itself. This is 100% a thought construct. Now, it might be useful. Perhaps the notion of nation states is useful. If you're going to have a nation state, of course, borders are useful. I'm a Norwegian and you're not a Norwegian, and I have this passport. We kind of have to play that game to be functional within the system as it's set up. So I know whose bags to pick up at the airport, and I can say I'm a Norwegian and I can show my passport. It has some use, but it's complete fiction, right? And when we forget this, we start to kill each other over these, lines in the sand or all sorts of slights, right? So the really interesting thing is that it totally seems as if we're reacting to an event out there or a set of events called a football game that's making us feel a particular way. But the whole shebang is created by thinking, is a projection of the mind. So that kind of tells you something about where experience is actually coming from. Something else that you can learn about psychology is that we don't react to events. We react to our mind's predictions about what it thinks that we're going to be experiencing next. There's this beautiful story by the psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett, who's written a couple of books, How Emotions Are Made and 7.5 Lessons for the Brain. Very useful books. She talks about this letter she got from this former South African soldier who had been hunting guerrilla soldiers, and suddenly he saw what looked like a sharp object and a person. His heart was beating, and he saw this guerrilla soldier with a bunch of soldiers behind him pointing an AK-47, and he got ready to shoot. And then one of his colleagues tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Don't shoot, it's just a boy." And he took a second look, and he saw that the soldier was perhaps a 12-year-old boy. The AK-47 was a herding stick, and the guerrilla soldiers were a bunch of cows. And he was so disturbed by this, and he wrote Lisa Feldman Barrett many years later and asked, what's wrong with my brain? How could I? But there's nothing wrong with the brain. What's happening is that his thinking process is trying to answer a question like this, meaning, given what I know about the war and the state my body is in with the high pulse and me seeing a sharp object, what am I likely to experience next? And it's that thought-treated projection that we then respond to. And sometimes we get we get information from the world which can alter our predictions. So, and this is extremely useful when it comes to things like chronic pain or anxiety, or most of this is not a pathology problem, it's a prediction problem. And we can alter and change our mind's predictions. We can also learn to see that they are predictions or they are thought constructs to begin with. Now, if you really think about it, you'll realize that sports could never work if we actually reacted to events. It's way too slow. A good professional athlete is not reacting to stuff. He or she has very efficient predictions ahead of time. So if you watch, for example, two skilled fighters, two pro boxers, the speed in which you're punching, you have no chance to see and react to those shots. It's completely impossible. It's way too fast. So the way these boxers survive is that through training, their minds have been able to develop very efficient predictions ahead of time. So, and this also can explain sometimes if you look at, for example, if you're a boxing fan, the Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou fight, which, the way it looks to me is Ngannou kind of won the fight. Tyson Fury, the experienced boxer, the world heavyweight champion, at least one of them, Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk has the other titles. He probably edged it out on points, but he delivered a very lackluster performance. And one question is like, well, he was probably underprepared, and he kind of, but Francis Ngannou, who even managed to knock him down, is not really on his level when it comes to boxing. So how could he get tagged by those shots? He's met other fighters who punch way quicker and who have way better technique than Francis Ngannou did. So why did he suddenly get tagged to the extent that he did by Ngannou? And one explanation for this, there are many, but one is that Ngannou is unorthodox. He does not throw his punches in the same way as a really skilled boxer would do. So even though he's slower and doesn't have the right technique, Tyson Fury's predictions didn't quite work to the same extent, and he kind of struggled to adapt. So these are a couple of learnings. We don't respond to events, we respond to our mind's predictions. And our feelings don't come from something out there. They're exclusively generated inside of us through the process of thinking and meaning creation. So I hope this was useful and provocative. As I want you to know, I see clients from all over the world online. So if you have anything you'd like to change or work on and you want to explore that with me, you're free to reach me at provocativehypnosis.com. I also offer mentoring for therapists and NLP, hypnosis, meditation professionals. So, again, thanks for listening.